We've got 32 knots of wind, 34 knots of wind, and hitting 8 knots.
Wow, what an adrenaline rush. That was, it was amazing.
It's been a really sleepless night. In fact, it has been f***ing horrendous.
Right, Jamie, why are we all feeling a little tired today?
We're just looking at the damage done to the boat. Time to move on. Had a fairly good night's sleep. It was quite bouncy though, not uncomfortable, not rolly. It was more sort of backwards and forwards, and that's because of this change in wind direction. So you'll notice that there were lots of fishing boats at anchor there last night. I remember this from last time. This is obviously a favourite place for the fishing boats to come and hide from the weather. So still quite good protection from the winds, which are now coming from the northwest. But enough swell that comes round and just makes the anchorage just a little bit like this, but we were fine, didn't drag, didn't move, all good. So really strong winds during the night. I would estimate up to 30 knots gusting, but of course in the morning they've died down. So at the moment we only have, I think it's under 10 knots, but I think what we might do is just get the foresail out only and just see if we can just cruise slowly down to our next destination, which I can see on the horizon there. It's not far away, it's only about 18 miles. Just want to get there and see what the sea state is like behind the islands. If it's unsuitable, we'll push on, but we're hoping just for a short sail today, but it will be a sail hopefully. Okay, head sail out. That's good. Engine off. This is what we like. So we are gently sailing with a wind off the hind quarter, starboard quarter, and we're doing about 4.5 knots or so in about 10 knots of true wind, which is not too bad. Now you can see the head sail flapping a bit. In theory, I would normally pole this out, but there's a little adjustment I've got to make to the spinnaker pole, so I can't use it at the moment. I don't know how much you can see here, but it's pretty rolly. There's that swell coming in from across the Indian Ocean, and that is why we anchor on the east side of these islands. So you can see Esper is rolling about a bit, but it is nice just to get that engine off. Well, it's been a very pleasant sail, rolly but good, and we've hit over 6 knots, which is great. Now just over my shoulder, just there, that's where we're aiming for. You can see the gap between the two islands. It's about 5.5 nautical miles away, and we, under normal circumstances, would be doing fine. The only problem is, if I swing round, you can see got a bit of a squall approaching, and it appears on the weather radar, so it's thick enough that the radar is picking it up, but it's quite small. The only problem is, I think that's going to hit us before we try and get through the gap in the islands. So starting to think about reef that main, and yeah, let's see what happens.
First sail of the season, what do you think of it?
Yeah, it's just so good to get the sails out and turn that engine off. It really is. It's rolly because we've got this swell coming from the northwest, which is this change in the weather system, and Esper's coping with it perfectly. We've got the mizzen out for a bit of stability, and head sail out, doing over 5 knots. I mean, what more could you ask for? Flat calmer seas perhaps, but aside from that, it just feels great. Don't know if you can hear me. We've got 32 knots of wind, 34 knots of wind, and hitting 8 knots.
Wow, what an adrenaline rush that was. It was amazing. Coming through that channel, I thought Jamie was going to say, no, we're going around the bottom, but he was determined to get us through. And we hit our highest boat speed ever. 10.1, am I right?
Not ever.
Oh.
Since Southeast Asia.
Since Southeast Asia, 10.1 speed. We also, well, as the squall came through, we clocked over 40 knots of wind pushing us from behind and lots of big waves. As we went through, the waves got bigger, but it got really interesting because they started bouncing off those two cliff faces as well, so you had quite an odd motion going through. It went down to about, I saw 6 metre depth at one stage, and literally as you came through it just stopped. What an adrenaline rush. That was brilliant, and Esper handled herself really well. In fact, we had the engine on as we came through for safety's sake, but all the way up until that last minute we were just sailing with the High Cut Yankee, which you may have noticed we reefed, and it gave us really good precision navigation. It was great, it was brilliant. So happy! Time for a drink.
Right, a nighttime update. Actually, it's coming into the morning now, but it's been a really sleepless night. In fact, it has been fucking horrendous. One of the worst anchorages, simply because of this northwesterly coming through. You can hear the wind now, lightning. It's been gusting, I would say, between 25 and 40 knots pretty much most of the night. That's the wind. I've had to resort to putting the motor on to take some strain off the snubber, which after a few hours good work is starting to slip down the chain, and it's just been exhausting. So we're just waiting for first light and we're out of here, but we don't have any choice, to be honest. This is probably, on this strip, probably the best anchorage until Taratau, and I think we're going to go straight to Taratau today, take advantage of this wind and run with it. But in the meantime, just whew, it's been tiring, it's been something, it really has. Well, after an horrendous night at anchorage, we're just looking at the damage done to the boat. The first thing was that the snubber, which if you remember we timed with a rolling hitch, had completely knotted itself, or slipped and tightened itself onto the chain to the point where we've just had to cut it. That's the bit Liz is holding up. Fortunately it was at the end, so we just cut the end bit off, but that shows you the kind of pressure that that snubber was under as we were swinging round in huge circles last night. And sadly we lost our sun awning. Completely gutted about that. It's our own fault for not taking it down, but in the chaos of re-anchoring as the sun was going down and into the night, we forgot to take it down, so we lost it. Which is a bit daft, isn't it? Okay, let's weigh anchor.
Right, Jamie, why are we all feeling a little tired today?
Bit of a hectic night last night, very interesting. Probably up there as one of the most uncomfortable anchorages we've been in. We had no choice. Of all the places along this part of the Thai coastline, it's probably the safest, but we had heavy northwesterly squalls, and they were battering from literally the top of Phuket all the way down and into Malaysia, so there was no escaping it. So I think we actually chose quite a good spot, but I threw a spanner in the works. At sundown I decided that there was too much swirl coming from around the bottom of the island back into the anchorage, so I decided that we should re-anchor, and anchored once and we were too close to the beach, and so we anchored again. By this time it was night, it was slashing with rain, blah 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 blah, and yeah, just exhausting. Like this, and the sound of that snubber creaking. And in fact that was quite a reassuring sound, because you knew the snubber was holding, but every time the boat snatched you could hear this. So yeah, I've only had a couple of hours sleep, but hey, look, we're sailing again. We've got a broad reach. There's a bit of weather over on the northeast side, but the northwest where the weather's coming in from is looking good. So yeah, happy sailing. Well, the second half of that journey we didn't bother filming because we had to switch over to motor sailing. Very big swell and the winds dropped, so we were doing a lot of rolling at just sort of 2 knots. So we stuck the engine on and we've approached Taratau, one of our favourite islands. This, I think, was Thailand's first national park, and it's beautiful here. Now, we're very tired, so what we should have done was to go down the south, or down the centre of Taratau's east side, but because we've been at it for a while, we thought we'd stop off in the northern tip, which is actually quite a good thing, because this, according to many people, is their favourite anchorage in Taratau. We have the north up there, and then we have this island protecting us from the east, and we apparently do have some weather coming in from the east, and it's just this little bay, a few outcrops and rocks and stacks, and even a couple of beaches as well. Now, we are here to get down to Pankor quickly, but if we like it enough and we feel like we need a rest, maybe we'll stay another day. But you can see it's absolutely beautiful. Engine's still running right now because Liz is putting on the snubber, and she is trying a different technique. It's a different kind of rolling hitch she's been researching. So she's just practicing this now. So let's just get a shot of Liz's bum.
I've decided to have another try at the rolling hitch. I've changed it to the icicle rolling hitch, which I understand, having done a bit of research, is even stronger than the usual rolling hitch that I've been using, and it's particularly good for difficult conditions. I've also extended the snubber as far as it needs to go, even though we're not necessarily expecting bad stuff tonight, but who knows, we could do. So we've got a really long snubber, and we've got an icicle rolling hitch, which I'll show you next time.